Trap squad, 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 trap squad. Hey, clickbaity political. Yeah, thirst trap, trap squad, squirrel squad. Our mission is critical to speak the truth to the masses. We here for the fight. We ain't started, but we here to finish it. Sick and tired of seeing the privilege. Take advantage of the weak and the innocent. So we let our voice be heard. Every single weeknight, unapologetic. Black people, despite this white supremacist system that we live through on a daily, we still throwing up those acorns cause we represent clickbaity. Yeah. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad, throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad, yeah I see you, yeah I see you. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, ThirstTrap, trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad, throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad, yeah I see you, yeah I see you. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, ThirstTrap, trap squad. I got the blood in the city. I'm trying to find you, say what? I got the blood in the city. I'm trying to find you, say what? Niggas say what? Bitch, I done tried to 9 to 5, niggas say what? Bitch, I was born black, can't nobody compare to that. I done seen a lot of niggas lose their lives cause of that, and that's a born fact. Cause I'm black, I'm supposed to lay down and take the shit you giving me. Well, bitch, I ain't gon' stay down. My hands up, screaming, don't shoot. Because I'm black as pig, maybe quick to let it loose. We gotta come together, take a stand now, get this man out of the White House. We done playing around, I'm done talking. Yeah, I done said it all. It's time for clickbait, political thirst trap. I'm done talking. Yeah, I done said it all. It's time for clickbait, political thirst trap, thirst trap, thirst trap.
You heard the man on the rhyme. What's up, Facebook Live? Time for Clickbaity, the political thirst trap. I'm Kim Brown. I don't know why Marcus and Mondale asked me to come back, but voila, here we go. We're going to break down the day's events in the news, give our takes, perspectives on so much out there happening. We are under day 2 of martial law in the United States. I hope everybody is fully aware of how there has been a shift and from what it was to now what it is. But we're going to get into all that. Hopefully we'll be able to take your comments in the comments. I'm Kim Brown, by the way. I'd like to bring in everybody else. Mondale Robinson checking in, Marcus Farrell checking in, and Malaika Jabali checking in. Hi, Malika. We are not acquainted, but I'm a big fan of your work, so I'm very excited to be on with you tonight.
Hi, how y'all doing? And my signal is going in and out, so hopefully it's not too janky.
Oh, it's dope. We good.
Okay, good.
Hey, Malika, for those who don't know you, who are you?
You asked me?
Yeah, who are you?
I am Malaika Jabali. I am a writer, attorney, and activist. You can find my work in The Guardian, Essence, The Root, The Intercept every now and then. And I've got an upcoming piece actually coming out in Vox tomorrow, looking at the historic inequality and underlying conditions facing Black Midwesterners. That's led to kind of disparate treatment with these police officers.
Wait, I thought there wasn't any Black Midwesterners. I thought there was no Black people in the Midwest.
That's what the Washington Post done told me, because we're supposed to only appeal to the average Joe Schmo in Minnesota, but there are lots of Black people in the Midwest, so that's what I'm gonna get into.
Excellent, excellent! I can't wait to read it.
It's a different experience in being Black in the Midwest, because I'm from Maryland, DC area, and I worked in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and St. Louis, Missouri, and the whole country is racist, right? But it's a different flavor, different variety of racism. Like the East Coast suburban Maryland racism is way different than that St. Louis racism, okay? And that Tulsa, Oklahoma racism. That shit is real. Not to saying that my shit is fake, but that shit, oh no. Like the racist is on next level shits. But guys, I wanted to maybe everybody kind of start and go around and from your corner of the world, tell us what martial law under Donald Trump and a lot of Democratic elected officials is looking like where you are. So Marcus, Atlanta, what's popping?
Freedom Park right down the street, big protest, cops everywhere. I'm in Atlanta. This is the Black Mecca of America. That's what people say. And what I've noticed is whenever, as they say, whenever America catches a cold, Black people catch the flu. And when it came down to COVID-19, Black folks held the brunt of it. You would think the police escalation wouldn't be as big here in Atlanta because of the sheer amount of Black folks and maybe even Black officers. But that's not the case. So the biggest thing that all of my activist friends who were out there, and I was headed out there today myself, but I was worried that I wouldn't be able to come back and actually do the thirst trap here with friends and family. But what I noticed is that the big thing was transportation to and from the protest in a safe way, not getting blocked in by cops, and also everybody thought it was hilarious that the pepper spray that they were shooting actually blew back on them, like God said, Black Lives Matter. So it's one of these things where just because you're in a Black town, you might not necessarily see any difference. And the second point, which is super interesting, is and we're going to get into it, I think, but the young brother and sister, the Morehouse student and the Spelman grad, who got pulled over and arrested, actually got their windows broken out, pulled out of the car, harassed, taken to jail. Brothers and sisters in the city were looking for those Black folks all night long. They got let out of prison, and I will say that the 6 cops that had anything to do with it was fired. So even though Keisha Lance Bottoms kind of took a more moderate neoliberal approach to addressing the uprising, she did make sure that the cops served justice, and I think that's something that is kind of quick when it comes down to a Black-led city.
Mondale, what's popping in North Carolina?
So actually right now I'm in Virginia, and
Virginia.
Yeah, much like Marcus in the concrete jungle of Atlanta, I'm in the trees out here in Northern Virginia, and just like everywhere in this country, the trees can't hide the racism that's rich. We saw yesterday our president do one of the worst things I think a democratic society can do. He actually pushed peaceful protesters out of a space with tear gas and rubber bullets so that he can do a photo op, which is definitely not a sign of a healthy democracy. And to even add fire to that, this president chose to hold up a Bible upside down first and stand in front of a church that had been burned, which is kind of like tacky, especially since the people who run that church, the Episcopal diocese, knew nothing about him coming, nor did they approve of him standing in front of the church, using him as a photo op. And it was awkward, as you can imagine, not to mention people were arrested as a result of that, and also accosted and tear gassed for the president can take a picture with his cronies. So I in Northern Virginia, just like much of this country, am feeling the harms and also oppressive nature of this regime.
Malaika, where are you at, dear?
I'm in Brooklyn. I actually just came back from a protest. Atlanta is my home, though. That's my hometown. And as Marcus said, it is disappointing, but I guess not unexpected that Keisha Lance Bottoms would have the type of response that she had when it comes to the more radical unrest. What we're experiencing in New York City is probably a little bit of that as well. We have Democratic leadership but we have a type of Democrats who aren't willing to, expand progressive programs the way that we need to. As far as the feeling of being on lockdown itself. So we came from a protest, and I think people are probably still out there, and there's a little bit of defiance up here. So, the NYPD is out in full force. You probably saw some of the reactions to that on Twitter or anywhere else online. Actually, we had a friend who was arrested, a few people who got caught up, but people are still being very resistant, despite the, very strong police presence. It's a police presence that I've experienced for about the decade that I lived in this city, and I've been all over New York. So it's not even a today thing. It's an ongoing thing. So the moment you step into a predominantly Black neighborhood and Black people have been pushed more and more out into the outskirts of the city, you see a larger and larger police presence. So we were trying to get back relatively quickly from the protests. And there are a few cops here and there, but we didn't feel the kind of resistance that maybe some other neighborhoods would have. There's always an ongoing threat of police violence, so be aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, some of the pictures, coming in from around the country of how the police are responding to protesters, Brooklyn was really stark. Like the video I saw coming from the Barclays Center, the police acting like full on animals, beating shit out of people. I mean, I was like, word, we going like that? And when they tried to commandeer the Metro bus, and the bus driver said, nope, we are not your paddy wagon, NYPD. Step the fuck off. That was beautiful, beautiful. And I really want to shout out the Trans Workers Union, Local 100, for standing by their members, standing by their bus drivers. Like, nope, don't rope us into this shit. That's y'all shit. Get your own damn paddy wagons. This B41 bus that go through Brooklyn is not here for that.
That's because they're gonna be the first one to get fucked up.
Well, that and then them
funny, but
yeah, I mean, that's some real shit, Marcus. But it's also worth noting that these are people of the community. These Black people, brown people that are driving these buses live in these communities, and they know that we're not gonna treat our neighbors like folly for you. I was about to say you presidential cops, but that's what they are. That's what they're acting like. So I applaud the bus workers as well. So that's dope.
I mean, you don't want 2 weeks from now that you actually have to pick somebody up on the normal route and be like, bro, yeah, you took me to jail.
Right. Like, hey, nigga, don't I know you? So I live in Prince George's County, Maryland. For reasons like I was trying to order some dinner tonight, DoorDash was like, because of actions in your area, we are suspending food delivery. I'm like, dog, I don't even live in DC. But so there, there's a curfew in place tonight, 7:00. I don't even want to cut the loop. I can't. I have to, disconnect briefly, because what we saw last night in Washington, DC was just absolutely appalling. And, shout out to DC residents who may not have been participating in the protests, but still looked out for the protesters. I don't know if y'all saw the video of the 50 or so more people that had to take refuge in a stranger's house. A person opened up their doors and let 50 protesters stay all night in their house. And the police were waiting outside for them until almost the time when the curfew expired at 6 a.m. And you want to talk about solidarity. That's solidarity. My God, you open up your home to people, strangers off the street, but because of them being pursued by law enforcement that's trying to arrest them for what exactly? You know what I mean? So people are stepping up, it would seem, in their own way. So I want to shout out to all the people that did things in that way. So another thing we're going to talk about, is the Bible stunt and what Trump said yesterday. We played a clip of Trump's speech from the Rose Garden on the show I host on The Real News. It's called Stir Crazy. And Trump said so much shit there, y'all. He said, first of all, this is our mission and we will be successful. This America always wins. I took that to mean as white America always wins. And then he gave so much coded stuff in that speech. He said he's here to support, your Second Amendment rights. And I'm thinking, oh, so it's cool for the protesters to go out and use their Second Amendment rights President Trump? Is that what you're suggesting? Of course, that was not what he was suggesting. But basically letting everybody know he will bring out the military fully armed. He said there will be thousands and thousands of armed military personnel in the streets of the nation's capital. And I guess, perhaps by extension, other cities as well. I mean, y'all, we are under martial law in Washington, D.C., and I know there's a curfew in a lot of other places. Malaika, what's going on in New York? Because I'm sure, Bill de Blasio is trying to, enforce that curfew shit kind of tough.
Even though maybe not, since his daughter was arrested.
Oh, word? I didn't know that.
It happened.
So
ahead,
I didn't hear I didn't hear Mondale's comment, but I heard you, Kim, and we had a curfew at 8 o'clock. I've never had a curfew in my life. My mama didn't even give me a curfew. We were hungry. We were like, I was going to even be able to get some food. And we were lucky. A bodega, speaking of solidarity, a bodega let us get some food, even though cops were in there a little bit after 8 o'clock. And the thing with New York City, as I said before, is that there's a constant police presence, and it's incredible to me that we can have a society that tells businesses that they have to reopen in order to give people haircuts and ice cream, and we can protest that and keep things going. But when it's time, and that's when it's time to save people's lives, but when people need to protest about us getting killed, then that becomes a problem. So the double standards are completely stark with what Trump is willing to do and what kind of rights and who is capable of getting rights in this country, because civil rights and civil liberties always, and constitutional rights always go to white Americans. They have historically. We were told that we had no rights that the white man was bound to respect. And so when we want to enforce our rights, then it becomes a problem.
Which Supreme, who was that? Roger Taney. Ooh, did y'all know? I think was that the one? That's who said that?
It was.
That's what I'm quoting.
It was.
Fun fact, Taneytown, Maryland, named after that motherfucking saltine. Just a fun fact. So just thought y'all should know that, because Maryland is not as progressive as advertised. I'd be trying to tell people, like, yeah.
Especially not out west where the Klan live.
Oh, dog, nigga, the Klan. Anyway, some people would tell you the Klan is still in PG County, but it depends on where you go. What was Mondale? I mean, for God's sakes, like, there are troops, nigga. They use troops to let Little Rock 9 into Central High School, and Trump is turning the military and law enforcement against the citizens. Now, it's not the first. This is not new for Black people. This is something new for the white folks that are out there trying to ally. I would assume the ones that are allied, because there are a contingent of white folks that are definitely out there putting their bodies on the line. And thank y'all for y'all service. We need more John Browns, not fewer. What did you think about what Donald Trump said, and then the subsequent actions taken by the law enforcement out there?
As a Marine Corps veteran, I need people to understand that Marines do not do cop training. We have, so to put the military on American soil against American citizens is something completely scary to me. We are trained one shot, one kill. And I don't know how you translate that to people people needed to protect or guard against protesters. I'm extremely nerve-wracking when I think about what Trump said from the Garden. So I need people to know that just because someone's in a uniform, all uniform training is not the same. The training that we are trained, and it's not just the Marine Corps, Navy, like Marcus is a veteran of, the Air Force and the Army are all trained to kill. So when Trump talks about 1,000 heavily armed military people in the streets, I'm looking for the war. Like, that's a declaration of war on Black people. So people need to know that this country is consistent, as it always has been, when it comes to defending white supremacy. And Trump made that clear, one, with the speech from the Rose Garden, and then two, we shouldn't even call it the Rose Garden. We should just call it the Thorns, because that garden that was nothing, fruitful about what he said or what he did and what was produced from that speech. And then the aftermath, like, he literally gave the go-ahead, not just for military, because I don't know if you guys paid attention to what he said. He said, we're going to use all civilian and military. So I'm thinking, are you talking about Blackwater? What civilians are you talking about? Contractors? Because first of all, a president can't usually call in military presence without the governors requesting it. there's been a couple times where it happened, but it was like you said, to defend people's right, not to take away people's rights. So I'm nervous about this war that this president just launched against every American who's out there trying to protest and exercise their First Amendment right. So I'm extremely nervous, especially when I know how it's going to be exacted on us. And I saw a video today that was so disturbing. It was this 3 or 4 cops standing in a huddle while this white woman got out her car with a can of black spray paint and started spray painting the building. And they literally just watched her spray paint the entire sentence that she wanted on his wall and then let her leave. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You might have thought she was a cop.
Well, or just white. I mean, like, you don't even have to think about, I mean, cops are, the institution of cops is definitely linked to the oppression of Black people. But the ideal of white supremacy is without a doubt an institution that is designed to kill and keep us subservient. So I'm nervous and scared as hell as a veteran.
I'll double down on what Mondale said. Every single service member has been trained with a weapon that will kill you in boot camp. Every single one, from the little guys over there at the Air Force to the Marines to the Army and even us sailors. We're all trained with live ammunition. So therefore, you're putting trained killers and having them point their weapons at American citizens. That's a scary thing. What I noticed the most is 2 things: symbolism and what goes on in Trump's mind. Trump pulled out a Bible, and I was just thinking to myself, he was probably hunkered up because he was missing from public for a couple of days in the bottom of the damn White House, sending out tweets, talking that shit that he talked like he's a big guy, knowing that he has his finger on a button and his authority over the United States military, and he's getting called out by Republicans and Democrats, right? The symbolism part of it is so interesting because the first thing this motherfucker thought about was the same imagery that Hitler used when he held the Bible up.
Wow.
Hold on. I heard that photo that's been making the rounds on social media was Photoshopped. So
then let's go even further. Something that we know what happened. That the symbolism of what slave owners did to use the Bible to justify being a Black slave and being a person that is oppressed, right? That I have power over you, and God gave me this right to have power over you. What's more scary than the goddamn military is that this motherfucker might think God has something to do with him oppressing American citizens. And the second thing is this right here.
Manifest destiny.
Yeah. Right. And when it comes down to the white allies, right? Thank you, God, for your white allies, right? But if I notice, even though Black people are getting attacked, like the brother in Atlanta and the sister who the young lady with the red dress, Thanos, the bike cop, right? What I noticed about this is very interesting. It's like the police department is looking at these white folks like, you motherfuckers are really going against our white supremacy, you traitors. You traitors to white supremacy. You traitors to the thin blue line. What are you out there doing with your white faces? You're not supposed to be the ones we're attacking. I'm really pissed at you. So I'm going to John Brown you. I'm going to take you and I'm going to run over you with a car. I'm going to punch you and then spray you right in the eye as close as possible with mace.
Marcus, tell them who John Brown is, brother, for our viewers who don't know.
The abolitionist John Brown. Be careful about the movie that's coming out. I just got
right.
But still, there's a movie coming out about John Brown. John Brown took out 3 plantations worth of owners, and also white families during what was it called? The what revolt? The
Bacon's Rebellion, is that right?
No, Bacon's Rebellion happened in Virginia. John Brown is just John Brown. Like he took over.
Harper's Ferry. That's what
Harper's Ferry. He took over the fortress there, the military fort,
the armory.
The armory.
So symbolism and the anger that they're showing towards people who have the gall to come out there and fight against white supremacy.
Well, specifically to Marcus and Mondale, since y'all are the military veterans, this is what concerns me, right? So like you said, if you're in the armed forces, you're trained to kill. Like that's goal number 1. That's teach you that day 5, right? You start shooting at niggas immediately, targets anyway. But so, like, do these National Guardsmen and armed military personnel, do they see the protesters as their countrymen? Like, do they see us as their neighbors, as the people they went to school with, as the people that, you know, they see every day, you know, as part of their daily life, their commutes, their grocery stores? Like, do they see us as worthy of not being shot / killed / maimed / injured? Or is it so robotic that they receive their commands, they receive their orders, they're, you know, getting their signals from the White House, the commander in chief as well. They're just going to do what they're told, regardless of what it is. If lethal force has been authorized against protesters / looters, are they ready to engage the American citizenry in that way?
So
Let me take
real quick. So the former Joint Chief of Staff went on News Network today and literally condoned sending troops against American citizens, right? And if you think about recent history, you think about COVID-19 and the Navy captain of that ship that was like, yeah, fuck you guys. I'm gonna literally clear this, you know, I'm gonna literally clear this boat out. I'm gonna literally fight back and publicly condone, fight back and publicly talk about, you know, what COVID-19 in a contained area like a Navy aircraft carrier could, how fast that could spread to sailors. And he was right. People caught COVID-19 on the ship, right? And he eventually got brought back in because, you know, even though he bucked the system, I'm pretty sure he got chewed out, but he got brought back in. So, but here's the thing, I'm gonna tell you the truth. You learn how to be a psychopath sometimes in the United States military. That's when you learn how to be crazy, right? When you don't have, you're not the coolest kid in school. When you're not, you know, you don't, the prettiest girl in school or the girl that you were going after didn't want you, then you can turn into a sociopath in the United States military, whether forced by actions like war and seeing traumatic actions. And you got to think about this: the senior officials that are in the military right now, they went to Iraq, right? And half of them have undiagnosed PTSD anyway, right? So if we want to talk about like whether they're going to follow orders, yeah, because they're used to shooting people. That's what the military is supposed to do.
So, and I mean, I don't have anything different to say than what Marcus said. I will say this: if you're trained, and I'm talking about in the harsh, most inhumane way, you're trained to learn how to be a killer. Period. And I mean, the Marine Corps is proud about saying every Marine is a sniper first. So when and you're also told that you don't think. So this is why I need people to know that I didn't join the military for any patriotic reasons. I just needed to escape extreme poverty. And that's what my reason was joining. So I already knew I was never going to be one of those people who, when I was not on duty, I was still going to be walking around in military gear like some of my cohorts were. I honestly believe that they will not engage Americans properly. I honestly believe they're going to follow orders, and those orders are to take back the streets, and that means by any means necessary. And their only way to know is use deadly force. There's no like talking down combatants. Enemy combatants is what they're called for, right? This is all military. No, enemy combatants or insurgents. Anything to make people less human. That's all military know what to do and how to do. So I am a firm believer that every soldier out there is going to think, and for the most part, act on those orders that they've been given, which is to take back the streets, which means deadly force will be used anytime troops are engaging with protesters.
Malaika, what's your take on this? Because y'all just gave me the chills, bro. Like I am fearful. I am fearful of what is possibly to come. And you know, when we hear someone like Joe Biden, who was made it his first campaign appearance, I believe, in 2 months at a Black church in Delaware, and this fama said, you know, perhaps police should be instructed on how to shoot in the leg and not in the heart. And I'm like, nigga, is this your king? Like, is this your take, Joe Biden? Because it's a shitty take. Malaika, what do you think about the military treating us as if they would treat any other occupied place that they have been dispatched internationally to bring about law and order?
It reminds me a lot, really, of Richard Nixon. And he campaigned with a very similar strategy. I actually had an article called Trump Treats Americans as if they're enemy combatants. This was out in 2017 because he used similar rhetoric. So if we recall around that era when we had Jeff Sessions, he was basically ordering him to announce that we're going to use more law and order. And so they've been kind of eroding our trust in the federal government to treat Black communities as citizens. They made this order in 2017. And then they made a similar order where they said that we're going to have a few cities right now, like Baltimore was on that list. I believe Chicago might have been on that list, Detroit, where they're targeting these majority Black cities and saying these have the highest crime. And we know that crime rates can be manipulated. We know that a lot of it has to do with socioeconomic conditions. And so they've been using that law and order rhetoric in the same way that Richard Nixon has in order to defeat Black protests. It's been like that for as long as any of us have been alive, and probably some of our parents. And so when we had more Black protests in the late 1960s, for instance, with the Black Panther Party, that's where you get the infiltration of the Chicago branch of the Black Panther Party. That's where you get the conspirators who are working against Fred Hampton. And so the same way that they call us Black identity extremists now, they called them terrorists.
They called them
said
terrorists.
that Fred Hampton is, the most, they had a file on him since he was 14 years old. And so what frustrates me and also motivates me is to see that we've had similar conditions from 1968 to 78 to 88 to 2008, 2018. We have similar conditions because we still have white supremacy. And until we eliminate that, we're still going to have Black people who are criminalized, Black people who are stereotyped and treated as threats. And we're going to be the main targets of that.
Well, what is y'all take about the response? I mean, this country is armed to the teeth, right? There's a gun roughly for every single American citizen, over 300 million guns in the streets. And we have seen instances of police being shot at. I just saw this story out of St. Louis. 4 police got bucked on during the protest. We was talking about Chris Dorner last week. What are you to do and how do you defend yourself? I mean, obviously we know the military got more guns than everybody, but at the same time, we are in a crisis. People are desperate and I think they're fed up. And I think that police know this as well, which is why they're being more heavy-handed. But at the same time, the harder they crack down, the more that's going to antagonize people to take further action. Do you think we're going to see more of this? And if so, where are we headed? Is the Civil War, are we ready? Has that arrived? Is the moment that all of these white militias have been training for their whole life? Are we at that precipice now where that wrong shot gets fired and then it's really on? You think it's on now? It could be oner than that, Marcus.
Well, so it's an interesting tidbit. I had my jersey, my Kaepernick jersey on all day long, and was planning on going to the protest. And I went to my car, and then I went to the roof, went to my car, and I was like, let me go ahead and get prepared for this show. And I saw this white girl who had full mask on, had the mask with the respirator on it. I have seen this white girl 20 times. And she's never said a word to me. And she stopped me today. And she was like, are you headed to the protest? I love you. I'm going to make sure I put my body out there on the line for you so you don't have to go if you don't want to.
Okay.
White girl lives in my building. And I was just like, I was aghast. I was taken back. But it made me think, I don't know who this white girl is. And Donald Trump don't know who his white girl is. Right? So what I'm thinking is this right here, tough guy talk, that tough guy talk. I think all that tough guy talk is going to depend on what his polls look like in October. That's what I think. I think that he realizes that there are white people's children that are in these crowds. And if something pops off real bad, he's going to have to turn into Hitler literally to actually win the election. And he still thinks that his rhetoric and his mouthpiece and his supporters are going to get him over the edge, right? So I'm going to say this right here, this with a little bit of skepticism. I don't think he got it in his heart. I don't think he's a tough guy like that. I don't think he's a tough guy like that. I don't. And so I'm not gonna put on my Killer Mike hat and be like, are we ready for it? Are we armed for it? Are you ready to go? Right? Because I mean, I'm armed, but I only got so many bullets, and I can't protect every Black person around me, right? And so the question becomes, how does Trump's numbers look, right? How does he want to repeat? Because this guy's full of imagery. This guy's full of knowing how to have like reality show savvy. And the last thing he wants is Fox News finally showing Black people getting shot in the streets, right? And white kids getting shot in the streets, because there are a lot of white people at these rallies. So, I think he's fundamentally racist. And I don't think he wants to show white death. That's something that he even knows America's not ready for.
I think that, Marcus. I don't know if hold on, because we can't forget Kent State, right? The National Guard opened up. That was white kids that got killed at Kent State. What was that? 1970? Anybody?
Yeah, but I mean, so let's be honest with you. We still had multiple white presidents after that moment. We still had multiple high white turnout at that moment. They have to figure out different ways of keeping people voting right now. They have to cheat their way into elections right now. So what I'm saying to you is, with numbers that Georgia is literally registering more people than more people of color and more Black people than they can purge, right? That's a factual thing. And you got Black folks registering to vote all over the place. You have open conversations about protecting the black vote in very open ways. And I think that he's going to be afraid of a huge Black turnout if he has common sense. Now, of course, I just said a key statement. If Trump doesn't have any common sense. So let's look. I think let's look at September and November. If this motherfucker poll numbers are bad, then we're gonna see him start pulling out the stops to actually try to stop a legit election, or even have the election at all.
I think, Marcus, I think you're talking about something in the future, but I think it's happening already. Trump's the two things we saw yesterday and today are direct results of these polls that came out that showed that he's down even 11%, double digits with all white Protestants, right? 11% with the evangelicals, a larger number with the Catholics. So you saw him go to this church and hold up the Bible, right? Him thinking that's enough. You saw somebody trying to talk to him, one of the reporters trying to ask a question from the press corps, and he did this number right here, like, stop talking. And then the second thing you saw him today, you saw him go to the monument out in Northeast DC, and in the Catholic diocese was like, what are you talking about? Like, this makes no sense to me. So I feel like you're right that Trump's going to be reacting to the polls, but not in the fall. Right now, he already knows that he's losing weight with this base that he has to have, not even to be victorious, but just to exist as a president. So here's what I am worried though. Trump, it's not above Trump to not leave the White House in January. With who cares about the result of the election? I can see this guy and his supporters saying the election was stolen and we're going to do whatever we need to do. I mean, he already started at talking about the flaws in vote by mail, even though he himself voted by mail. And when he was called on it, he did what Trump does, say something that makes no sense, that is not applicable to the process. So, I mean, when only Republicans were participating in vote by mail, it was the greatest thing ever. When he see large amounts of people of color and Democratic voters, having to take this way because of COVID, he's already nervous because he knows what it means. It means a lost election for him. But this is not a guy who's going to just leave. We see Trump's actions and we know that it's not above him. His campaign, along with the Republican National Convention, already started sending so-called poll watchers or election watchers down to Georgia to start their plan and on how they're going to protect the vote, so to say.
Malaika, what's your take?
I kind of appreciate Marcus's comment in terms of Trump's concern about his how he's going to be depicted leading up to November. And he has kind of a tricky line to toe a bit, because even with his white supremacist sympathizing, there's still a part of him, I think, that does not want to violate Black people too much. He came from, New York wealth. Like he's used to being around, hip hop artists, and he uses Black people as tokens. And so I think y'all probably remember that comment. He said something about MAGA loves the Blacks. And
said that like MAGA was a person. I'm like, who the hell is MAGA? I'm like, what the fuck?
MAGA loves Black people. So I think he uses Black people as tokens. And so there's a part of him that's trying to still appeal to white supremacists, but also not turn off Black people too much, because I think he recognizes the power that we have. Otherwise, he wouldn't be having these ads with T.I. using his rap to try and, do some anti-Biden campaigns. And so I think he understands Black people's power. And that kind of takes me back to Malcolm X's ballot or the bullet speech. Just to kind of go back to your original question, we may not be picking up bullets, the way some of our revolutionaries were in the 60s. And so Malcolm said, if that's not what we're doing right now, then if most of us weren't picking up arms in the 60s, I can't see us doing it right now. And if we're not doing that, then we need to recognize the power of the ballot, even if it's a threat of, withholding votes or, showing out in high numbers for Biden. There's a lot of strength in the Black vote, and we can really shift elections. So I think he's aware of that, and whatever might go down among like vigilante whites, and we're already seeing that happen right now, I think he's going to try and temper some of it just for the imagery.
They said MAGA loves Black people. Yeah, MAGA loves Black people like the coronavirus, right? I mean, they wrap its arms around us and smother us out. Y'all are way more optimistic than me, because I got to tell you, so when Trump got elected in 2016, I can't say that I was surprised, but I kind of was. And then I really got down on myself because I lacked imagination, right? So I'm trying not to make the same mistake of lacking imagination when it comes to the extents in which white supremacy will try to resurrect itself and to make it itself more powerful and undeniable and more deadly. And with Trump already muddying the waters about the credibility of this election, about mail-in voting, there's a number of lawsuits right now being filed across the country by conservative groups and private conservatives are already challenging the validity of mail-in balloting. And part of me is concerned that this is going to be successful because Trump successfully discredited the media, right? That's why all these cops are aiming, literally bucking at the press, members of the media who they clearly can see are out there working, covering these uprisings and targeting them, because Trump dehumanized the press. Fake news. These people are terrible. All they do is print his lies. So, okay, so why wouldn't a Trump supporting National Guardsman target with pepper spray a member of the media exercising their rights to cover what's going on in our country? So I don't think Trump's leaving the White House, gang. I think he is laying the foundation to stick around. And I think that is really going to be a test of our Constitution, as if it hasn't already been tested quite a bit during his administration, about who's going to get this motherfucker out the White House, dog. I mean, even if he does lose the vote, I don't think that he's leaving, because he's already calling bullshit on the election, and it's June.
I want to add something to that. And it's unfortunate because our party is horrible at fighting. And just follow what I'm saying. There's only one person that I recall actually fought a close election, and that woman happens to be Stacey Abrams, right? That fought an election for a long period of time. If we go through history, we look at Gore, it's over. We give up, right? If you look at
even Andrew Gillum's initial response was to give up.
Gillum's initial response, first thing was, we give up, right? And I don't expect a Pelosi-led Congress to because there is still, now maybe this moment will change that thought process. Maybe this moment will change the thought process of, oh, let's just You know, let's be respectful and this, that, and the other. And maybe the candidate himself will do it, right? But we don't have a good track record of like fighting our ass off to make sure that we win. And we damn sure don't fight like Republicans. Republicans will take every single resource they have, stop legislation, damn near hijack the Supreme Court nomination process just to make sure that they get whatever the fuck they want when they want. So the question becomes not if Trump is going to do it, because I have 1,000% certainty that he's going to try to stay in. My thing is, how are we going to fight? Who's going to be the fighters? Who's going to be the thug to be like, nah, bro, I'll walk up in the Oval Office right now and kick your ass out? Like, who's going to do that? Who do we have like that on our side? That's my question.
So my answer to both of the questions is this is the reason or the thought of that, and it's a real thought, and I'm glad y'all brought it up. I think the answer to it is this is the reason we need the Senate. This is why we have to take control of the Senate, and it's the most important election happening right now. And if we don't go after the Senate at a rate that's even higher than we're talking about this presidential election, then we are definitely doing a disservice to 2020, because what happens in 2021 or that period when he's a lame duck president is going to be so dangerous for everybody that's a Black person or person in color in general, because this guy will have no limits on what he's going to do.
Malaika, did you want to hop in? What do you think? You think Trump's leaving if he loses, or you think Trump's like, nope, chilling, got the military, they got my back?
I think he might be forced to. I think people are fed up. I don't know. I mean, this is probably the most intense kind of pushback I've seen, like unrest, urban unrest I've seen that's coordinated, like all over the country. I don't think we've ever had like a national emergency set a curfew before. And people are tired. So whether Democrats fight or not, and personally, I don't identify with the Democrats. I identify as an independent. I think our party, or that party, is irredeemable. They're a capitalist party. They have used Black people as tokens for several decades. And so I don't have a whole lot of trust in the Pelosi's and Bidens of the world, but I have trust in people to protest, to push back. Like we were talking about earlier, there were a lot of white folks at the Brooklyn protests, and I'm seeing them in other cities as well. When you have coronavirus decimating, people's livelihood, with 30 million people unemployed, when you have a white supremacist president who's talking about shooting looters in, quoting a 60s sheriff from Miami. When we have all these things that's steadily eroding at people's trust and confidence in government, I think people are going to be too fed up. And I think it's going to go beyond Black people. I think you're going to have people across color lines who are ready to defeat Donald Trump, whatever that looks like.
If I may add to that, because I think this is a conversation that we should have, and I talk about it all the time. I think all three of us talk about it all the time in different ways. Republicans aren't the only reason why we got here, right? Like let's just be 1,000, right? The crime bill happened, right? I am supporting Joe Biden over Trump. And it's not because he's an awesome candidate. It's because Trump is a hot goddamn mess. But at the end of the day, I am more so going for, my democratically elected folks who are Senate and down. And he just happens to get, because I don't want his hands on the button. But we got to be very honest about how this happened. I want to bring up something real quick, and then I'll move on very fast. I posted this on Twitter, and Facebook. I just want to repeat it. Black people warned the left, the progressive left, the center, and even Black conservatives warned Republicans that this shit was going to happen a long time ago. They did. The problem is that white America is so inherently focused on whatever they think is important. And on the progressive left, what they thought was important was, we want to talk about Medicare for all. We want to talk about the billionaires and the millionaires more than anything else. We want to talk about like corporations getting involved in government. We want to talk about everything else and center everything else instead of centering the number one issue that has America in trouble in the first fucking place, which is racism. right? So the quote I made was, we wanted to cure heroin. America is addicted to the heroin of racism. And progressives were trying to solve it by dealing with the nicotine addiction of capitalism. And I personally think that that's how we got here. Like, if Bernie had centered Black folks a long time ago, maybe these protests would be happening. If Joe Biden had acknowledged a long time ago that the crime bill was a bad thing, then maybe these protests wouldn't be happening. If reparations was a conversation a long time ago, then maybe these protests wouldn't be happening. But the conversations never happen because y'all want to talk about everything fucking else and then drive by our neighborhoods like, what's wrong with him downstairs?
Him downstairs. Marcus, let's be clear too. Let's talk about you're talking about those addictions, heroin and nicotine. Let's be sure that we remind people that these addictions are as American as apple pie and baseball.
That's right.
I just had a brain fart. I had a thought. It escaped. Malaika, you can feel free to hop in if you want to, baby. Y'all come back to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess going to the point of, the priorities of Black people, I guess I can consider myself of being a part of like left media. And this is like the perfect opportunity to make those intersections clear. Like, we see just like how staunch and how permanent of a construct race has been. You're not going to say it's a social construct or whatever, but lots of social constructs are real. Money is a social construct, and it's real as hell. We still rely on it. And so even though race might be a construct, so much of the country has been built on that construct. And the fact that that was not centered in, much of Bernie's campaign or amongst like leftist organizers, this is like the prime opportunity to make those issues more pervasive, through our narrative, through the media narrative. And frankly, like I'm really concerned about local organizing. I know that I consider myself a radical and I'm a socialist. So I know that federal politics is important. Obviously, we want to control the conversation, we want to control resources, we want to make sure that enough states get the funding that they need. We also know that as a people, our power is going to be relatively limited. And local and grassroots organizing, state organizing is where you also have, you might have Medicaid cuts, you might have cuts to the educational system. So I think it's going to be really important for us to think on a micro level when it comes to like kind of state, and that's the work that I do when it comes to like state and local politics, and a larger macro level. And I'm afraid that conversation about what we can do on our block and our neighborhood gets kind of lost.
Yeah, and shout out to all the mutual aid organizations that are stepping in and filling the void where, state agencies are not able or have been, rendered inaccessible, because of the coronavirus pandemic. But the thought that I had that I forgot and now I remembered is, guys, we just have to be honest with ourselves. Like, is Trump horrible? Absolutely. Would George Floyd still have been killed by Derek Chauvin under President Hillary Clinton? Hell fucking yes. You know what I mean? And if the shit would have went down in Minneapolis and spread from city to city, you don't think that Hillary Clinton would not have called out the National Guard, or Joe Biden, should he win this election and something similar happen? I mean, the Democrats are not here for us. Like, they really aren't. And they have proven that time and time again. And President Joe Biden would get out there in the Rose Garden and talk about how much of a law and order president he was. Now, I don't know if he would say it as inartfully, as Donald Trump, but I mean, the sentiment is there. Like, we get killed under Democratic administrations, we get killed under Republican administrations.
Barack Obama.
Especially Barack Obama. Ferguson happened on his watch. You know what I mean? Like, Miriam Carey happened on his watch. And we have to abandon, I think, in some ways, like this unearned loyalty, to this party that shows us that they only here for us every 4 years, really. You know what I mean? But on a state level, I'm not generally pleased with Democratic elected officials here in the state of Maryland. And Maryland is a progressive place, right? And these niggas be lunching all the time. And not to mention that a lot of these protesters in different cities are being fired upon by police led by Democratic mayors. New York City, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Illinois. Like, these are Democratic places where these fake ass cops are taking a knee and kneeling with protesters and using this tactic of empathy, or at least performative empathy. And then 10 minutes later, they shooting tear gas canisters at them, shooting rubber bullets at them. This is being authorized by Democratic leaders. Like, how many times, babies? How many times they got to tell us?
And we see it too. Like we literally listen. That has to be said and addressed, because what people are saying is it's the same thing with a black face. Like, I don't care if you elect a black official if they're going to carry on in the same way that Donald Trump is carrying on or Barack Obama carried on. We need people that care about our community, and you can be a Jim Brown and care about our community. So I care about your policies more than your melanin, and that's a fact, because we've seen our people sell us out and offer up honorary blackness to people who don't give a damn about our community time and time again, even as recent as Clyburn with his statement. So
Joe ain't my uncle.
Joe ain't my uncle.
Right.
Joe ain't my uncle.
Importantly, think about this. Now, I will give Joe props. Today was the first time that I ever saw him look, and I'm just saying look, surface-wise, folks, look presidential, right? And I won't front. It might be something that some people in this country needed. But in the back of my black political mind head, I'm thinking, y'all motherfuckers are in negotiations with Rahm Emanuel right now.
Oh, Jesus. That's right. Oh.
Follow what I'm saying, huh? That y'all put out a press release saying y'all are going to bring on 16 shots in the cover-up and also address black issues at the same time.
Oh, Jesus.
Now follow me. He's supposed to come in and do a specialty, and I heard so many Democrats tell me, and he's coming in to do some specialty work to get rid of certain people that the Trump administration, and I'm just thinking to myself, did anybody vet that whole thought process? While
nigga.
Not with a black lens, they didn't. Definitely not with a black lens. But the problem is there's going to be a black person that does what? Defend it. They're going to send out somebody that is trying to get them tickets to the CBC Awards Gala. I'm telling you, they're trying to get them front row tickets.
They already bought the dress, like they ready to go.
They already bought the dress.
Right. They bought the suit or the dress. They're like, no, y'all not gonna mess me up.
They already got the mask to match. They already got the coronavirus mask to match this.
Oh, bougie Negroes, please reconsider your priorities for the sake of us all.
I shared this video of I want to say something about whiteness and how white America spits in the face of black people consistently. And I'm not just talking about the right side of the aisle, I'm talking about both sides. I shared this video earlier in the week about Joe Biden defending Black South Africans' right to take up arms against apartheid regime when Desmond Tutu testified for the Senate, right? And people thought I was sharing a praise for Joe Biden. Some people that support him were in my inbox like, I'm glad you came around. I'm glad you see Joe Biden as I answer. And I'm thinking to myself, these people are tone deaf. Like this is me saying that Joe Biden just otherized black Americans to the point that he is willing to snap on his white brothers in front of a C-SPAN camera on live TV when he was a young senator in defense of black people taking up arms against an oppressive, what he called illegitimate regime, white regime in South Africa, right? But not here. We've never seen that Joe Biden defend American blackness. So when people forget that this to me is the same sentiments when I see white people adopting African kids, but they want to adopt Lil Ray Ray down the street in Chicago because they know they have to look at that trauma and relate to their grandmama and her role in America's white supremacy. I have no space for that. And the fact that white people miss that point is so blaring to me. And it's also so telling at how great white supremacy is at hiding the role that white Americans play in the continued oppression of black people on a daily basis.
And do you know what Joe Biden believes, what his viewpoint is on reparations? Because I haven't heard the word come out of his mouth. It might be a good time for it.
And throughout the debates, no one ever asked him. I can't recall him saying anything about it for the entire year that we had debates.
Right. Right.
I
Joe
mean, he
Biden
just
already
announced
paid.
that
Listen,
so.
y'all are wrong. Joe Biden already paid black people reparations. He was the vice president to the first Negro.
Oh, here we go. So here we go.
Please.
The only thing I want to point
Run
out,
me my check.
the only thing I want to point out, and then I'll be quiet, is Donald Trump is so bad, he got Joe Biden and George Bush looking good.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
To whomst? Whomst?
Wow.
I mean, I'm just saying.
And that's not a downplay of the harm and the tragedy that's associated with George Bush, because we know we went to war with a country that we shouldn't have been at war with at all. Actually, we went to 2 wars. We ain't say nothing to Saudi Arabia, and everybody that had something to do with 9/11 was from Saudi Arabia. And you know what I'm saying? So, like, what happened?
And they rolled out another black man to defend it, a black person to defend it.
Yeah, I mean, so and not only defend it, lie about it. Like what Powell did was beyond this disgusting. Like willing to say that we have proof that there's weapons of mass destruction.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he did, and I'm like, bro, you took the olive north on that one, and that was disgusting to me.
Oh my God, I'll never forget, what was it, the UN General Assembly or the UN Security Council, wherever Colin Powell was up there lying his ass off. I said, oh, they got Coley out here looking bad. Just lying to the world. Fuck it. Malaika, I want you to tell us, because this is an example, because I know you're in New York, so I'm pretty sure you're familiar with what I'm about to talk about. But anyone watching, listen, your political favorite, your Democratic political favorite, you got to let them people go. Even your favorite white ones. Joe Biden, let that nigga go ASAP. Bill de Blasio, Malaika, Bill de Blasio is about to exercise his veto power, I believe, either for the first time since he's been mayor of New York, to veto the banning of a police chokehold. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have not heard of that.
Okay,
Did this come out today?
It was on New York One News. If I go in my likes, I can probably find it. But see, now I feel stupid. But it's a thing. I'm not making it up.
Have chokeholds from the NYPD?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Slow it on. Y'all say everybody and talk amongst yourselves for a moment.
While we're waiting on Sister Brown to find that, go ahead and tell people how they can find you on social media.
You asked me, I'm assuming, right?
I did. Go ahead, champ.
Was that me?
It is. Go ahead.
Malaika Jabali, and my name is Mad African, so I'm gonna spell it out. M-A, M as in Mary, A-L-A-I-K-A, J-A-B as in boy, A-L-I. That's why I gotta tell customer service. I gotta use all the when I'm calling to get rebates and refunds. So yeah, Malaika Jabali.
There we go.
I'll be using my Twitter fingers.
Okay.
Marcus, where can they find you at, Marcus?
Go ahead.
Marcus for America on Instagram and Twitter.
And Mr. Brown, I'm assuming you found it, but go ahead and tell people where
I did find it. I'm on Twitter at Kim Brown Live, and I work for The Real News, and I host a live daily show called Stir Crazy. It comes on YouTube, 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and everyone's welcome to join us. Tanya, who is this nigga? Let me look at his Twitter profile.
While she's checking out his profile, I just want to go ahead and tell y'all that I am at Mundell Robinson everywhere. I am Mundell Robinson everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, and also Twitter. And you can follow Clickbaity at Clickbaity, Political Thirst Trap, here on Facebook and also on Instagram and Twitter as well.
Okay, so what this is Bill de Blasio. I don't think the vote has happened yet. He is saying that he would veto a city council proposal to ban chokeholds by NYPD officers. It would be the first veto of his mayorship.
Wow.
And they're trying to portray himself as a progressive during the election. You see how people are once their feet are to the fire.
Yeah, here we go. New York One News, y'all. Let me give the people their proper attribution. Gloria Pazmino, covering the Manhattan Bureau. She's reporting the city council will vote on 2 controversial pieces of legislation aimed at increasing transparency and changing practices at the NYPD. Sources tell New York One City Council Speaker Corey Johnson will hold a vote on a bill that would criminalize the use of a chokehold It's not currently criminalized. News
Wow.
there. A second measure, which would require that the NYPD create a standardized system to discipline officers, because currently, apparently, there's not one in place, would also be sent to the floor for a vote at the council's next stated meeting. I am shocked, but I should not be shocked that there's already not standards in place to discipline police officers. I guess they was just like, well, fuck it. If you want NYPD, you can just go hard, do whatever you want.
Well, we know this is the police force that used to have blackout days, which meant they would say in the locker room before people went to their shift, today we're having a blackout day, which means you're going to stop every black person you come into contact with. So this is that same police force. So I'm not surprised at all. And this is the police force that we all watched Erica Garner get choked out by one of those moves. So I'm not even surprised at all.
Y'all, check this out. So the chokehold proposal has long been opposed by the de Blasio administration. In 2015, Bill de Blasio has said that he would use his veto power to block the bill. Asked about the chokehold bill on Sunday, de Blasio said that he would be willing to sign legislation as long as it addressed a scenario where the officer might be in a life or death situation. Bill de Blasio, kindly go fuck yourself, because the motherfuckers are always going to say they're in a life or death situation. See, y'all, no, you can't trust these so-called progressive. Oh my Jesus. New York.
And we really need to get at the power behind this. Like, if you look at what happens with police officers in New York City, and it's probably like this throughout the country, a lot of it is based on collective bargaining agreements. And so because of the benevolent association, the policemen's union, they block a lot of state legislation that can hold them accountable, that could criminalize some of their behavior. So we have to kind of reverse engineer and see what exactly is the issue that is keeping quote unquote progressives from being more staunch about protecting people's lives and people's rights. And why do police unions have so much power? Part of that has to do with the fundraising that they do and what money they give to elected officials. Like, a lot of this does go back to like who's lobbying, who's giving money, who is keeping the gravy train running, so that you can claim, to be a progressive and still deny common sense legislation. And this is
right.
a long way coming. Like, this should have been happened. And we don't have standards because we give that authority to the police commissioner. They can decide what kind of discipline to give. At the end of the day, we have 8,000 commissions and authorities, but the police commissioner is the only person who can decide whether or not to fire a police officer. And until we get at that, we're going to keep running into the same problems in as liberal of a city as New York is.
So let's be clear too. Matter of fact, let's say it first on Clickbaity Political Thirst Trap. As an honorary spokesman for Black people, I know Black people like, no, you're not. What I'm saying right now is you can no longer call yourself a progressive if you listen to or if you receive money from police unions, you are no longer considered a progressive. Let's go a step further. If you apply for their endorsement, not if you get it, if you apply for their endorsement, then you are not a progressive at all, because we know this union is organized KKK, even beyond the KKK itself.
Oh, also, let's add, if you don't believe in shutting down qualified immunity in fights with the police unions, and that's not on your website, don't talk to Black people.
Don't talk to Black people.
Right.
Don't go to a barbershop.
And by the way, I'm not going to explain what qualified immunity is. I do want all of our watchers to actually look up qualified immunity, because Thursday I'm going to ask you motherfuckers about it.
Well, I'm glad I shut my mouth and didn't ask you what qualified immunity was, because I sure was about to, but that's okay. I will do my Googles and be prepared on Thursday with the answer. I think the sad fact that I think most Black people understand, but I think the larger America needs to understand, is that the police run this fucking country. Okay, elected officials don't even run this fucking country. The cops run this country. We live in a police state. And if you don't think you live in a police state and you in Atlanta, Chicago, DC, New York, why don't you step outside? Why don't you go outside and go about your normal business and see if the police don't immediately yoke you up? This is the new reality, folks. And I don't know when this is going to lift. I don't know when this is going to be over, but it is what it is right fucking now. And I had sent this out on Twitter. You know, Black people have long known that we don't live in a democracy. Now the rest of y'all know it too. You know what I mean? So this is extremely serious, but thankfully they haven't shut the internet down yet. So we will continue to talk about this. We appreciate everybody checking us out tonight on Facebook Live. Thank you very much to Malaika, my man Mondale, and Marcus for inviting me on. I'm Kim. Y'all been watching Clickbaity, Political Thirst Trap, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30 Eastern. Y'all be back and join us again. See ya.
Peace, y'all. Y'all be easy.
Trap squad, 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 trap squad. Hey. Clickbaity political. Yeah. Thirst trap, trap squad, squirrel squad. Our mission is critical to speak the truth to the masses. Yeah. We here for the fight. We ain't started, but we here to finish it. Sick and tired of seeing the privilege. Take advantage of the weak and the innocent. So we let our voice be heard. Every single weeknight. Unapologetic. Black people, despite this white supremacist system that we live through on a daily, we still throwing up those acorns cause we represent clickbaity. Yeah. Trap squad, trap squad, let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad, throw the squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad, yeah I see you, yeah I see you. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, thirst trap, trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad, throw the squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, yeah I see you, yeah I see you. Trap squad, trap squad, thirst trap. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad.